Modern culture treats relationships as proof of success and singleness as something to escape. Stoicism takes the opposite stance. It teaches that companionship is valuable, but only when it does not compromise self-mastery. To attach yourself to another before mastering your own impulses, emotions, and values is to invite dependence, distraction, and inner conflict. Stoicism does not glorify loneliness, but it deeply respects solitude as a training ground for strength. Staying single is not about avoidance or bitterness. It is about preparation. It is about building a stable inner foundation so that love becomes a choice rather than a need. The Stoics believe that no external bond should rule the inner life. Before you give your time, loyalty, and energy to another, you must first possess yourself. The chapters that follow explore why remaining single during periods of self-mastery is not weakness, but wisdom. You will learn how desire clouds judgment, how solitude sharpens discipline, and how independence creates healthier relationships in the future. This is not advice against love. It is guidance toward becoming worthy of it, without losing yourself in the process. Chapter 1. Why desire undermines self-mastery. Desire is not inherently destructive, but when left undisciplined, it becomes a quiet tyrant. Stoicism teaches that the greatest threat to freedom is not external force, but internal compulsion. Romantic desire, in particular, has the power to override reason, distort judgment, and pull the mind away from self-command. Before understanding why staying single can be powerful, you must first understand how desire weakens mastery. Desire operates by narrowing attention. When the mind fixates on another person, it reallocates energy away from growth and toward pursuit. Thoughts circle around approval, attraction, and validation. This mental occupation feels pleasurable at first, but it carries a cost. Focus is fragmented. Discipline erodes. Decisions are influenced not by principle, but by emotional anticipation. Stoicism warns against any attachment that compromises reason. The danger is not love itself, but dependence. When your emotional stability depends on another's presence, responses, or affection, you surrender autonomy. You begin adjusting behavior to maintain connection rather than uphold values. This is how self-respect erodes quietly. The Stoics argued that anything you cannot lose without collapse already owns you. Desire also amplifies impulsivity. Romantic attraction intensifies emotions, accelerates attachment, and weakens patience. The mind seeks immediate gratification rather than long-term alignment. Stoicism teaches delayed judgment for this reason. Acting too quickly under emotional influence leads to choices that conflict with deeper values. Many regrets are born not from malice, but from unexamined desire. When you are not yet disciplined, desire fills the vacuum. If purpose is unclear, attraction becomes direction. If identity is unstable, relationships become anchors. Stoicism insists that direction must come from reason, not craving. Without this foundation, relationships become substitutes for meaning rather than expressions of it. Desire also distorts self-perception. You begin to see yourself through the imagined eyes of another. Worth becomes conditional. Confidence rises and falls with attention received. This externalization of self-worth is incompatible with Stoic self-sufficiency. True confidence comes from character, not from being chosen. Staying single interrupts this cycle. It removes the constant stimulation that desire feeds on. Without romantic pursuit, the mind regains space. Energy returns inward. Reflection deepens. You begin to notice habits, weaknesses, and patterns that were previously masked by distraction. Solitude reveals the self honestly. This honesty is uncomfortable, but essential. Without distraction, flaws surface. Impatience, insecurity, restlessness, and dependency become visible. Stoicism views this discomfort as training, not punishment. What is revealed can be refined. What is avoided cannot be mastered. Singleness also restores emotional neutrality. Without romantic highs and lows, the nervous system stabilizes. You learn to regulate mood internally rather than through external stimulation. This builds resilience. Emotional steadiness becomes self-generated rather than relationship-dependent. Importantly, staying single is not suppression of desire. Stoicism does not deny attraction, it disciplines it. Desire is acknowledged, observed, and restrained when necessary. This restraint strengthens willpower. Each moment you choose principle over impulse. Self-command grows. Desire loses power when it is not constantly fed. Over time, cravings weaken. Clarity strengthens. You stop being pulled and start choosing. This is the essence of mastery. When desire no longer dominates, your standards rise. You are no longer seeking completion. You are seeking alignment. Relationships become optional rather than urgent. This changes everything. By staying single during periods of self-mastery, you protect your growth. You ensure that when you do choose companionship, it is from abundance, not lack. Stoicism teaches that only the self-possessed can truly give without losing themselves. Desire promises fulfillment, but discipline delivers freedom. Until discipline is strong, desire must be managed carefully. Singleness provides the environment for this strengthening. It is not absence, it is preparation. This is why Stoicism values restraint before attachment. Master yourself first. Everything else follows. Chapter 2. Solitude as a training ground for inner strength. Solitude is often misunderstood as emptiness, punishment, or social failure. From a Stoic perspective, solitude is none of these things. It is a deliberate environment for training inner strength. When distractions are removed and external validation is absent, the mind is forced to confront itself honestly. This confrontation is not comfortable, but it is essential for mastery. Staying single creates the conditions where this work can be done without interference. When you are alone, there is no one to absorb your emotional excess or compensate for your weaknesses. Irritation has nowhere to go. Insecurity has no audience. Restlessness cannot be soothed by attention. Solitude exposes emotional habits that relationships often mask. Stoicism values this exposure because what is unseen cannot be corrected. Inner strength begins with clear self-knowledge. Solitude teaches emotional self-reliance. Many people unconsciously use relationships to regulate mood. Loneliness is escaped through companionship. Anxiety is softened through reassurance, and boredom is relieved through constant interaction. These patterns weaken resilience. Stoicism trains you to generate stability internally. When you stay single, you practice meeting emotions directly instead of outsourcing relief. Over time, emotional tolerance expands. This process reshapes discipline. Without romantic distraction, attention becomes available for personal structure. Sleep improves. Training becomes consistent. Reading deepens. Goals clarify. The energy that once flowed outward is redirected inward. Stoics believed energy should be invested first in the self, because only a cultivated mind can act rightly in the world. Solitude provides the space for this cultivation. Solitude also strengthens focus. Romantic involvement fragments attention through constant emotional processing. Messages, expectations, and negotiations occupy mental space. When single, cognitive load decreases. The mind becomes quieter. Focus sharpens. This clarity enhances productivity and insight. Stoicism values clarity because reason requires space to operate effectively. Another benefit of solitude is boundary formation. When alone, you discover where your limits are. You learn how much work you can sustain, how much rest you need, and what environments support or drain you. In relationships formed too early, boundaries blur. You adapt prematurely. Staying single allows boundaries to form naturally based on self-knowledge rather than compromise. Solitude also reveals dependency patterns. You notice urges to seek validation, distraction, or escape. These urges are signals of unmet internal needs. Stoicism teaches that urges should be examined, not obeyed. When you remain single, you practice resisting these impulses. Each resisted urge strengthens self-command. Over time, the brain learns that satisfaction can be delayed or redirected without harm. The Stoics emphasized voluntary discomfort as training. Solitude is a form of this practice. It removes comfort derived from intimacy and replaces it with quiet effort. This strengthens resilience. You become comfortable being alone with your thoughts. Silence no longer feels threatening. The mind settles. From this stillness, insight emerges. Creativity often increases in solitude. Without constant emotional exchange, thought becomes original rather than reactive. Stoicism values independent thinking. A person who cannot be alone often thinks according to others' expectations. Solitude breaks this pattern. You clarify beliefs, values, and priorities without influence. This intellectual independence is a cornerstone of Stoic character. Solitude also teaches patience. Without immediate emotional reward, you learn to tolerate slow progress. This patience transfers to other areas of life. Training, work, and personal growth become long-term commitments rather than quick fixes. Stoicism values patience because virtue develops over time. Importantly, solitude is not isolation. Stoicism does not reject community. It rejects dependency. You can engage socially without surrendering autonomy. Staying single does not mean withdrawing from the world. It means refusing to anchor your stability to romantic attachment. This distinction preserves balance. As inner strength grows, solitude becomes less heavy. Loneliness fades because identity stabilizes. You're no longer seeking completion externally. You feel whole in your own company. This wholeness changes how you eventually relate to others. You connect without clinging. You give without draining. Solitude also refines standards. When you are content alone, you are no longer pressured to accept misalignment. You wait without desperation. This patience filters relationships naturally. Only those who complement your values remain appealing. Stoicism teaches that quality matters more than quantity, in relationships as in thought. Over time, solitude transforms from absence into presence. You become present with yourself. This presence builds confidence grounded in competence, not approval. The mind trusts itself. Emotional reactions soften. Stability increases. Staying single during self-mastery is not avoidance of love. It is preparation for it. Solitude ensures that when companionship enters your life, it does not replace your center. It stands beside it. Stoicism holds that no external bond should command the inner citadel. Solitude fortifies that citadel. It strengthens walls, clarifies purpose, and disciplines the mind. From this foundation, any future relationship becomes a choice, not a necessity. This is the power of solitude. It turns aloneness into strength. It trains you to stand firm without support. And once you can stand alone, you can stand with others without losing yourself. Chapter 3: Emotional Independence and the End of Neediness. Neediness is not a lack of love. It is a lack of self-command. Stoicism identifies emotional dependence as one of the greatest threats to freedom because it hands authority over your inner state to another person. When your peace depends on attention, reassurance, or presence, you are no longer sovereign. Staying single during periods of self-mastery is a direct challenge to this condition. It is how emotional independence is built deliberately rather than accidentally. Emotional neediness often hides behind romance. It disguises itself as passion, attachment, or loyalty. In reality, it is fear of being alone, fear of abandonment, or fear of facing oneself without distraction. Stoicism teaches that fear is not eliminated by avoidance but by confrontation. Remaining single removes the escape routes and forces the mind to develop internal stability. When you rely on another person to regulate your emotions, your reactions intensify. Small changes in tone feel threatening. Delayed responses feel like rejection. Disagreement feels like danger. This hypersensitivity erodes clarity. Decisions become reactive rather than rational. Stoicism warns that when emotions are externally regulated, reason becomes subordinate. Emotional independence restores hierarchy, placing reason back in command. Being single exposes emotional habits clearly. You notice urges to seek validation, to be seen, to be desired. These urges are not moral failures. They are signals of dependency. Stoicism teaches observation without judgment. When you notice the urge without acting on it, you weaken its control. Each resisted impulse strengthens self-regulation. Over time, the nervous system learns that lack of validation is survivable. This process recalibrates self-worth. Instead of rising and falling with external feedback, confidence becomes rooted in conduct. You measure yourself by effort, discipline, and integrity. This internal metric is stable. It does not fluctuate with moods or messages. Stoicism defines self-worth through virtue, not approval. Emotional independence emerges naturally from this redefinition. Silence plays a crucial role. In silence, the mind confronts itself without entertainment or affirmation. Initially, discomfort arises. Thoughts loop. Emotions surface. This is not regression. It is detox. The Stoics believed that inner turbulence must surface before it can settle. When you stay with silence instead of escaping it, emotional strength develops. Emotional independence also sharpens discernment. When you are no longer driven by need, you see people more clearly. You stop projecting hopes onto them. You stop filling gaps with fantasy. Reality becomes visible. This clarity prevents unhealthy attachment patterns. Stoicism values clarity above comfort, because clarity protects character. Another benefit is emotional containment. You learn to hold emotion without discharging it onto others. Frustration, sadness, and desire are processed internally. This containment prevents emotional leakage that damages relationships. A person who can contain emotion is stable, predictable, and trustworthy. Stoicism values this reliability as a sign of maturity. As independence grows, emotional reactions shorten. You still feel disappointment, but it does not linger. You still feel attraction, but it does not dominate. You still feel loneliness occasionally, but it does not dictate behavior. The mind becomes responsive rather than compulsive. This is emotional adulthood. Importantly, emotional independence does not eliminate intimacy. It purifies it. When you no longer need another person to complete you, connection becomes mutual rather than compensatory. You are not using the relationship to escape yourself. You are sharing from a place of fullness. Stoicism teaches that only the self-sufficient can truly be generous. Neediness also distorts communication. You speak to secure attachment rather than express truth. You compromise values to avoid loss. Emotional independence restores honesty. You speak clearly because your stability does not depend on outcome. This integrity strengthens future relationships and protects self-respect. Staying single accelerates this transformation because it removes the safety net. You cannot outsource comfort. You must develop it. Over time, solitude becomes less charged. You feel grounded in your own presence. The craving for external reassurance weakens. Emotional noise quiets. This independence also strengthens discipline. When emotions no longer demand immediate relief, you tolerate effort and delay more easily. Training becomes consistent. Work deepens. Focus improves. Stoicism links emotional control directly to effectiveness. A stable mind acts better. Social pressure often frames singleness as deficiency. Stoicism rejects this narrative. It asks a different question. Are you governed by impulse or by principle? Emotional independence is not isolation. It is sovereignty. You choose connection freely rather than clinging to it. As emotional independence stabilizes, fear of loss diminishes. You know you can endure separation without collapse. This confidence removes desperation from future relationships. You enter them without bargaining or fear. This shifts power dynamics naturally. Ultimately, emotional independence is freedom from internal coercion. You are not pulled by craving or fear. You are guided by judgment. Stoicism defines freedom this way, not as unlimited choice, but as mastery over impulse. Staying single until this mastery is achieved is not delay, it is alignment. You ensure that when you do choose partnership, it does not own you. You stand whole, grounded, and self-directed. When neediness ends, clarity begins. You no longer seek to be saved, completed, or validated. You are already sufficient. From this place, any future bond becomes stronger, cleaner, and more honest. This is why Stoicism values emotional independence so highly. It is not coldness, it is strength refined. And staying single is one of its most effective training grounds. Chapter 4. Discipline, Solitude, and Inner Order. Discipline is not enforced strength. It is organized freedom. Stoicism frames discipline as the structure that protects the mind from chaos. When you remain single intentionally, you are placed in direct contact with your habits, weaknesses, and inconsistencies. There is no partner to absorb disorder or soften consequences. Solitude exposes patterns clearly and forces correction through action rather than intention alone. Without the emotional demands of a relationship, time becomes honest. You see where attention leaks. You notice procrastination, excess comfort, and avoidance. Stoicism treats time as a moral resource. How you spend it reflects who you are becoming. Staying single removes distractions that justify waste and replaces them with accountability to yourself. Discipline thrives in quiet environments. Solitude removes constant negotiation with another person's needs, moods, and expectations. This mental space allows routines to stabilize. Training schedules become consistent. Sleep improves. Nutrition becomes intentional. Stoicism emphasizes that physical order supports mental order. A disciplined body reinforces a disciplined mind. When you are alone, motivation must come from principle rather than emotion. There is no external encouragement or praise to sustain effort. This is critical training. Stoicism teaches that reliance on motivation is fragile because motivation fluctuates. Discipline, however, is chosen regardless of feeling. Solitude strengthens this muscle daily. Inner order begins with small, repeatable actions: making your bed, training at the same hour, reading before sleep. These acts appear insignificant but accumulate authority over the self. Each completed task reinforces trust in your own word. Stoicism defines self-respect as alignment between intention and action. Solitude makes misalignment impossible to ignore. Discipline also regulates desire. When alone, urges surface without immediate outlet. This includes sexual impulse, consumption, distraction, and escapism. Stoicism does not demand suppression, but regulation. You observe desire, delay response, and choose deliberately. Each delay strengthens control. Over time, impulses lose urgency, and obedience replaces compulsion. A relationship can sometimes mask indiscipline. Shared routines blur responsibility. Excuses become mutual. Solitude removes camouflage. If you fail, it is visible. This clarity accelerates growth. Stoicism values truth over comfort because truth enables correction. Discipline develops faster when feedback is immediate and honest. Solitude also strengthens focus. Without emotional turbulence or constant communication, attention deepens. Work sessions lengthen. Thought becomes more coherent. Stoicism prizes concentration as a form of respect toward reality. A focused mind perceives accurately. Accuracy leads to better decisions. Discipline protects this clarity by reducing internal noise. As routines stabilize, identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to improve and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. This identity change is powerful. Stoicism teaches that character is built through repeated action, not affirmation. Solitude provides the conditions for repetition without interruption. Discipline also creates emotional predictability. When your days are structured, emotions fluctuate less. The mind anticipates effort and rest. Anxiety decreases. Stoicism links order with tranquility. A disciplined life removes unnecessary surprises. Predictability becomes a source of calm rather than boredom. Importantly, discipline in solitude is not rigidity. It is responsiveness grounded in principle. You adapt without abandoning structure. Stoicism emphasizes flexibility within order. Solitude teaches this balance because you manage both demand and recovery alone. You learn your limits accurately. This inner order reshapes self-image. You stop needing to prove strength. It becomes evident through consistency. You trust yourself under pressure because you have evidence. Stoicism regards self-trust as the foundation of courage. Discipline generates this trust quietly. When relationships eventually enter this ordered life, they integrate rather than disrupt. You do not reorganize your values to accommodate desire. The structure is already set. This prevents resentment and dependency. Stoicism teaches that a well-ordered soul cannot be destabilized by external change. Social narratives often equate solitude with stagnation. Stoicism rejects this. It views disciplined solitude as preparation. You refine systems before adding complexity. You strengthen foundations before expansion. This patience prevents collapse later. Discipline cultivated alone is transferable. Stress does not dismantle it. Attraction does not override it. Conflict does not erase it. This durability is rare. Stoicism values what endures over what impresses. Ultimately, solitude reveals that discipline is not punishment. It is care directed inward. You structure your life because you value clarity, strength, and peace. Staying single during this phase protects the process from compromise. Inner order is not accidental. It is built deliberately through disciplined solitude. Stoicism offers this path not as retreat, but as training. When order is established within, the external world no longer controls you. Chapter 5. Emotional sovereignty and freedom from attachment. Emotional sovereignty is the ability to experience emotion without being ruled by it. Stoicism places this skill at the center of inner mastery. Staying single during a period of self-development is not about avoidance of intimacy. It is about reclaiming authority over emotional responses that are often outsourced to relationships. When alone, emotions have nowhere to hide. They surface clearly, demanding understanding rather than distraction. Relationships frequently become emotional regulators. Validation, comfort, excitement, and reassurance are exchanged to stabilize inner states. While this can feel supportive, it often creates dependence. Stoicism warns against placing emotional stability in external hands. Anything external is unstable by nature. Solitude removes this dependency and forces the individual to learn emotional regulation internally. When you are single, loneliness may appear first. Stoicism does not treat loneliness as an enemy, but as information. It signals unmet needs for meaning, structure, or self-connection. Rather than rushing to fill the void with another person, you learn to examine it. This examination builds resilience. Over time, loneliness transforms into solitude, a state of self-sufficiency rather than lack. Emotional sovereignty also involves detachment from outcome. In relationships, emotions are often tied to expectations. Responses, attention, loyalty, and affection become emotional currencies. Stoicism teaches that expectation is the root of disturbance. Staying single removes many expectation loops, allowing you to observe how often your mood was previously influenced by external behavior. Without attachment, emotional reactions slow down. You notice impulses before acting on them. Jealousy loses urgency. Insecurity weakens. Fear of abandonment dissolves because there is nothing to lose externally. Stoicism emphasizes that freedom begins when loss no longer threatens identity. Solitude accelerates this realization. Emotional mastery does not mean emotional numbness. Stoicism does not reject feeling. It rejects enslavement. You still feel desire, attraction, sadness, and joy, but they no longer dictate action. This distinction is critical. Many confuse emotional control with suppression. In truth, suppression weakens the mind. Observation strengthens it. Solitude creates space for observation. Attachment often distorts self-perception. You begin to see yourself through another's approval or disapproval. This shifts behavior subtly. You compromise values to maintain harmony. Stoicism identifies this as surrendering moral autonomy. Staying single protects values while they are still forming. You act based on principle, not preservation of connection. As emotional sovereignty develops, self-validation replaces external validation. Progress becomes its own reward. You no longer need to be seen to feel real. Stoicism holds that dignity comes from internal alignment, not recognition. This shift radically changes how you approach future relationships. You enter them whole, not seeking completion. Freedom from attachment also sharpens judgment. When emotions are not entangled, decisions become clearer. You assess people accurately rather than idealistically. Stoicism values clear perception because it prevents suffering born from illusion. Solitude removes emotional fog and allows truth to surface without resistance. There is also a quiet confidence that emerges. Not arrogance, but calm independence. You are no longer rushed by fear of missing out or societal timelines. Stoicism teaches that time is neutral. Only misuse creates urgency. Emotional sovereignty slows time psychologically. You act deliberately rather than reactively. This freedom extends beyond romance. You become less reactive to criticism, praise, rejection, and comparison. Emotional highs and lows flatten into steadier ground. Stoicism calls this equanimity. It is not indifference, but balance. Solitude is the training ground where this balance is practiced daily. Importantly, emotional sovereignty prepares you for healthier connection. When attachment no longer controls you, love becomes a choice rather than a necessity. You can appreciate without clinging. You can commit without losing yourself. Stoicism views this as the highest form of relationship, one built on mutual strength rather than mutual need. Staying single until emotional mastery is not about delaying life. It is about refining perception. You learn what emotions arise from within versus those triggered externally. This awareness prevents projection and blame. Responsibility returns to its rightful place, the self. As this chapter closes, the core truth becomes clear. Emotional freedom is not found in isolation or connection alone, but in sovereignty. Solitude simply removes distractions long enough for that sovereignty to be built. Stoicism offers this path not as deprivation, but as liberation. Chapter 6. Entering relationships from strength, not need. The final purpose of staying single until you master yourself is not permanent isolation, but prepared connection. Stoicism does not reject relationships, it rejects dependency. When self-mastery is achieved, relationships are no longer used to escape loneliness, regulate emotion, or define identity. They become additions to an already complete life, rather than solutions to inner disorder. Need-based relationships are fragile. They are built on fear of loss, fear of being alone, and fear of inadequacy. Stoicism teaches that anything built on fear will eventually demand sacrifice of virtue. When you enter a relationship from strength, fear loses its leverage. You are no longer bargaining your values for security. Strength-based connection begins with self-sufficiency. You know how to manage your time, emotions, and purpose independently. This creates a subtle but powerful shift in dynamic. You are choosing the relationship, not clinging to it. Stoicism considers choice the highest expression of freedom. When you do not need validation, you communicate honestly. There is no performance, no strategic silence, no emotional manipulation. You say what you mean because your stability does not depend on the response. This clarity reduces conflict and resentment. Stoicism emphasizes truth spoken calmly as a form of respect. Entering relationships from strength also changes attraction. You are drawn less to intensity and more to alignment. Drama loses its appeal. Consistency becomes attractive. Stoicism teaches that what excites the untrained mind exhausts the disciplined one. Solitude refines taste, not just behavior. Boundaries become natural rather than defensive. You do not set them to protect fragile emotions, but to preserve order. If a relationship disrupts discipline, clarity, or virtue, you recognize it early. Stoicism teaches that tolerating disorder out of attachment is self-betrayal. Strength allows you to walk away without bitterness. Interdependence replaces dependence. You share, but you do not merge. Each person retains responsibility for their inner state. This prevents emotional overload and blame. Stoicism values responsibility because it preserves dignity. Two responsible individuals create stability. Two dependent individuals create volatility. Conflict, when it arises, is handled differently. You do not react to emotion. You respond to facts. You listen without defensiveness because identity is not threatened. Stoicism frames conflict as information, not danger. Strength allows learning instead of escalation. Love from this position becomes generous. You give without expectation of return because you are not empty. Stoicism teaches that generosity rooted in abundance strengthens both giver and receiver. There is no scorekeeping when need is absent. Importantly, you also allow others their freedom. You do not attempt to control behavior to manage your emotions. Jealousy weakens because self-worth is internal. Trust becomes possible because fear is reduced. Stoicism defines trust as confidence in your ability to respond, not certainty of outcomes. This chapter also closes the Stoic loop on impermanence. Even strong relationships can end. Entering from strength does not guarantee permanence, but it guarantees resilience. If loss occurs, identity remains intact. Stoicism prepares you not to avoid pain, but to survive it without collapse. Society often rushes connection as a milestone. Stoicism rejects timelines imposed from outside. Mastery has its own rhythm. When connection arrives at the right time, it integrates smoothly rather than disrupting progress. Staying single until you master yourself is not about becoming cold or distant. It is about becoming steady. Steadiness is what allows warmth without dependency, commitment without fear, and love without self-erasure. The Stoic path ends where it began, with responsibility for the self. Once that responsibility is fulfilled, relationships become expressions of strength rather than shelters from weakness. And from that position, connection is no longer a risk to your freedom, but a reflection of it.